Hello, how are you and how do you do? Welcome to Series 2, The Spider Speaks His Mind. In this episode, I speak to Beth Saunders, Community Organiser for Wirral Foodbank. Amongst other things, Beth gives an insight into current campaigns such as turning local empty buildings into social housing and the Guarantee Our Essentials, which is calling for a stronger social security system that ensures everyone can afford the essentials, which includes making universal credit fit for purpose, helping to prevent people from having to use food banks, and how local MPs can play vital roles in the campaign. Beth is a staunch supporter of one of Merseyside's football teams. Her favourite colour is red. Hi Beth, welcome to the show.
Hi Gary, thank you for having me.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about the Wirral Foodbank, how it works, where it is?
Yeah, sure. So the food bank is a place where people can go and collect emergency food parcels. We're an independent charity, we're part of the Trussell network, and we provide people with 3-day emergency food parcels. Mainly we get people who are suffering with the cost of living, whose income just is insufficient, and people who are having problems with the social security system, homelessness, etc., etc. So we provide that emergency sort of stopgap, but we also do a lot of work to try and get people out of that situation as well.
Such as what?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, so we have a project now called Foodbank Plus, where we have 3 citizens advice advisors who are available to speak with clients after they've used the food bank, and they can sit down and do some casework and advice about any benefit issues or things with council tax or housing, employment problems, and can really work through that, and often it leads to a big increase to our clients' income. So there might be some benefits that they're not entitled to, or just an issue they need resolving. They can be signposted places for extra support, such as Spider.
Right.
And a lot of the time people don't have to come to the food bank after that, which is what we want really.
Yeah. And to just for laymen or for people who don't know, how do you or what's the criteria for going to the food bank or turning up at the food bank, or can you just turn up?
Yeah, so we operate through a voucher system. So our sort of what we recommend to people is to call up Wirral Council, and speak to one of the staff members there. They'll ask a few questions, nothing too invasive, just a bit about the person's situation, but generally the criteria is quite open. If someone does turn up at the food bank session without a voucher, we will help them, and we'll sort of take down their details and speak to them afterwards. And some people we are some people come to the food bank numerous times, and when it gets after about the 3rd or 4th voucher, we want to make sure that they're speaking with someone,
Yeah.
from Citizens Advice or Foodbank Plus team or another charity, to make sure that they're getting support, because we're not just there to hand out emergency food parcels. We want to be part of the help with the problem and help find a solution forwards as
Yeah,
well.
not just at that on that day. It's a bit further on. So
Yeah.
active signposting
Yes.
to different organisations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To help them
Yeah.
to actually get to where they need to be.
Yeah, it's just anyone from across the Wirral. So we know the majority of our clients are claiming like universal credit or health benefits, but we also do get people who are working as well. It
Yeah.
can be anyone who
Anyone.
needs. Any of us could have to use a food bank at some point in our lives.
It's a bit sad, isn't it?
Mm.
I read there was I think there was 141,000 since it started in 2011. Wirral Food Bank has supported over 141,000 people. It shouldn't have even been needed to be open in 2011, and we're still here. What 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 can we do about it, or how can we move on from it? When would be the time when we don't need a Wirral Food Bank or a
Yeah.
food bank?
Well, that's a direction we want to be going in. All of us at the food bank don't want to have to be here. We don't want our jobs to exist, and I don't think many people can say that. I think there's lots of different things that need to change, because my role is doing campaigns, and I wish there was one campaign which I could wave our magic wand, tick that, and everything would be resolved.
Yeah.
But there isn't just one. There's lots of different things that need to change. So A big one, for example, is the universal credit needs to actually match the cost of living, because at the moment it's about £30 a week short of that. That the benefit system needs to be easier to access as well.
Yeah.
Then we need more social housing. We need to better support for care leavers. The list goes on really, and we need more secure work as well for people to go into, like long term, well paid, secure solutions too.
Yeah. So you get actively involved with other organisations and businesses, and do you work with people like Social Security and organise DWP or?
Yeah, we have regular check-ins with our local job centres, with Wirral Council, with MPs, etc.
Yeah, and are you getting help? Because obviously the social security system has been a nightmare.
Mm.
It's to navigate it. It's a nightmare anyway.
Yeah.
It always has been. Um, Hopefully it will change. Don't know if it will, but do they listen when you say what do you call them? Clients?
Mhm.
Yeah. So when your clients come,
Mm.
and obviously they're the people who live and breathe
Mm.
the issues that they go through. You feed back to the people who
Yeah.
you need to feed back. Do you think they listen or they are listening?
Yeah, I think they're listening, but there's obviously that whole phrase of actions speak louder than words
Yeah.
as well. So we do want to see some action taken. I think a lot of MPs, councillors, council staff, etc. They also don't want food banks to have to exist and don't want
No.
people in their areas using them. But some of the policy asks are, yeah, is something that they need to have a think about, and I think a lot of it's about priorities as well. We have had some positives come through recently with the two-child benefit cap being lifted,
Right. Yeah.
and that's been something that a lot of charities, including ourselves, have been campaigning on for a long time. But again, that's been a long time that we've been campaigning on that, and that really is just the start of a number of reforms that need to be made to the social security system. So we really hope that can be like represent the start of the beginning,
Yeah.
really, with that one. And then there's a renters reform bill coming out in May, which will make Section 21 eviction notices illegal. So that's where you can get kicked out of your house if you were the private landlord for no fault of your own. Say the landlord just wants to sell
Just
up
get
or
out. Yeah.
doesn't want you anymore. People in the past, well, and now can be evicted due to that, and that is going to be banned from May onwards. However, there's lots more that needs to be changed with housing. That's just one part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And your campaigns, what campaigns apart from your day-to-day running, what campaigns are you running at the moment, or what?
Yeah, so I'll start with our national campaign, which is about universal credit. It's called Guarantee Our Essentials, and this was launched by Trussell, which is the biggest national food bank charity in the UK. We're part of the Trussell network, and Joseph Rowntree Foundation.
Yep.
It was launched a few years ago, and it's basically asking the government to change the way that they measure universal credit. So universal credit is a social security payment that you can receive whether you're in work or out of work. Most people receive it or out of work, but you can, say if you're on a low paid or part-time job, you can also claim universal credit to top up your wages. And it's there to act as that safety net,
Yeah.
right? And to be there to cover those essential needs, but it doesn't actually cover those essential needs. So it isn't really doing its job. If you think of all those basic things that you need in life to survive and live on in the UK in the
Yeah.
modern day, obviously you've got food, your water bill, your fuel bill. We all know that's a big one. Your energy costs, Wi-Fi now. Everything's online. That is deemed as an essential.
Yeah. It's not just
Yeah,
a want to have. It's an
yeah, yeah.
essential part of our lives now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your mobile phone, food, getting the bus, etc. So that has been estimated to be about £125 a week, give or take. And currently, well, before April this year, people like a single adult with no extra health conditions, etc., would receive about £92 a week. So there's a shortfall, and that could
Shortfall.
be
Yeah.
enough for your food shop, which is, you can see that on a basic level why people having to come into food banks, or who having to use energy vouchers or getting into debts, because it just doesn't add up. And we don't want it just to be a one-off increase of like a £20 uplift every week or something, because that could change then
Yeah.
in a few months' time or the year after. So our next ask for that campaign is to ask the government to do an independent review of how universal credit is measured. So to kind of take the politics out of it and ask like a think tank or a low pay commission to do some research into how that actually should be measured. In
Right.
a similar way that they did some research in the past about minimum wage, because at the end of the day, we all need those that essential amount to live on. We went to a big mass lobby day in Westminster last year,
Right.
so we were joined by hundreds of others from food banks across the UK. We actually had one of the biggest groups from our area, and we spoke to MPs in our area about this campaign, and it's something that we've been speaking to them regularly about anyway,
Yeah.
just in local meetings too.
Yeah, well, all that that campaigning and the going down the poverty and looking at poverty and think
Mm,
tanks and that. We had our MP, didn't we, Frank Field,
mm,
the MP, and he's long-standing MP,
mm.
and he was. Someone used to write to him, and he say when he wrote a letter to him, he used to just say, Frank Field MP, one man think tank against poverty. Sadly he's died now, but you were on a podcast recently, wasn't you, with Andrew Forsey? That's Feeding Britain, and
Mhm.
I believe that was an offshoot of what Frank started up with others in Birkenhead called Feeding Birkenhead, which is now national with other organisations national. But Feeding Britain is it's a national campaign, isn't it? It's a national.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and we've got our own Feeding Wirral group now as well,
yeah,
which Andrew Forsey has been helping us run. We've actually just started tearing that locally. So hopefully in the future, seeing that will give us a really good opportunity to sort of influence locally and bring everyone together, because with campaigning, one voice is good, but if you have like a multitude of voices, that's just so much more powerful, from different organisations all coming together saying the same
the
thing.
same thing.
Well, it must be a pretty big deal, and
Yeah,
it
it's not
must
just
be
one
making
person
a
saying it,
big
or
a
one party,
change.
political party, or
Yeah,
one type of person saying it,
yeah,
whatever. Um,
exactly.
I tell you what's interesting to me, the current housing campaign
Mm.
of turning empty buildings into affordable homes. Is that part of what you're doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that is our local campaign. So part of my role is to do community organising, which basically involves working with local people. I've got a group of people with lived experience of using the food bank, and we kind of do campaigns based on their experiences to bring their voice up, and to take community action. So our local campaign that we decided last year was to turn empty buildings into social rent housing, or affordable housing, because there is you might be aware, there's a big housing crisis in the UK at the moment,
slightly.
and there's a lot of charities calling for more social housing at the moment, and that's social housing is like council housing, housing associations kind of rent. When we say affordable rent, that's can mean lots of different things to different people, but I think from our perspective, it's we want social rent because that's one that's affordable to people on housing benefit
Yeah,
or on a low income. We found that a lot of people come to the food bank because there isn't that there isn't that low cost rent secure alternative for people to move on to. So people are stuck paying high private rents that they can't afford, stuck waiting on the list for years.
right.
There's currently 5,000 plus people on the housing waiting list in Wirral, which is a lot of people. And it sounds like a number, but each one of those people is
It's an
each one is an
individual.
individual.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and we've also got people who are stuck in temporary accommodation, or who are sofa serving or homeless. We actually had someone call up our office this week who've been kind of a couple with disabilities, and they've been placed in temporary accommodation, which is a million miles away from anywhere. And they don't have any credit on the phone. They've only got a kettle
yeah,
to cook with in the accommodation. So they've called us up, and they're even struggling to get to the food bank. And thankfully, we managed to sort something out for them. But this is a problem when there's nowhere for people to move on to afterwards.
yeah.
With the thing called Property Pool Plus, where people who are on that waiting list for social housing can bid for a house, and there'll be like hundreds of people just bidding for one house. So the demand's so high, but what's actually out there at the moment is really low. And there's definitely house building that needs to be done to tackle that. But in the more sort of short to medium term as well, there's a lot of empty buildings as well that we can
Yeah.
be making use of.
There's loads of, just in Birkenhead or
Yeah.
Wirral alone.
Yeah, exactly. Like we all know one in our local area, and you kind of think, what a waste. Why is there all these empty buildings yet so many people who are struggling to find somewhere to live? And there's so many benefits to doing this campaign, because not only does it provide more affordable housing for people to live in, which also reduces homelessness, reduces food bank use. It also improves that local area
Yeah.
because it looks nicer. There's not like all these
So
empty,
smash windows
yeah,
or
and kids getting in,
yeah.
antisocial behaviour issues. Sometimes these buildings, the emergency services are having to be called out, which is a drain on those services. And it's also more environmentally friendly as well, because you're not having to use green space, which I know the Wirral people are very precious about.
Yeah.
And also, and you know, you're kind of using what's already there. It has a much lower carbon footprint as well.
Well, it's a no-brainer using a derelict building or an older building or
Yeah.
an empty building and putting it to some good use
Yeah.
correctly, rather
Yeah.
than just to have a little bit of paint on it. But you do it up. You got your eye on anywhere at the
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah, so we've got a few places in mind. Well, one place that we was quite obvious when we started speaking to people about this campaign is a big tower block building in Wallasey called Charter House
Right.
on Union Street, and that was owned by a housing association called Magenta about 8 or 9 years ago, and it's since sort of been sold between different private owners, and it's just such a shame because it's just been empty. There's 41 two-bed apartments, so it could house like over 100 people,
Yeah.
which is so needed right now. Because there's especially need for like 1 and 2 bed apartments as well. Um, so we've been doing some campaigning on that, and we're also focusing now on a couple of empty buildings in Oxton. There's an old medical building that's been neglected for a long time. There was actually an arson attack there last year, and there's another disused building as well. Where there were some flats. I think there was a bit of a damp and mould issue. But you know
Yeah.
what's going to, you can't just leave those houses to rot and to not be there, especially when there's a housing
Well,
crisis.
whoever owns them,
Yeah,
it's a two-way street, isn't it?
yeah,
It's helpful
yeah,
for the people who's getting the benefits from it and whoever owns
yeah,
them buildings. You're
yeah,
increasing the value of it. It's
yeah. I think part of the problem with housing is it's because it's become so financialized. So there's a lot of people who will go and buy buildings or land and just sit on it and wait for it to increase in price. And then some buildings have got to a point where they're so expensive that it doesn't seem like a good use of public money
to
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 spend on this, especially with the renovations that are needed. Um, yeah, and it's just kind of sometimes sat there in this battle about the funds.
yeah, yeah.
But each building is different. There's some buildings that will have structural issues as well. But yeah, a lot of it seems to come back to the cost side of it, which feels like a lot of campaigns always come back
Yeah.
to that point. But it's about our priorities and where governments and councils and housing associations, etc., want to focus their priorities, isn't it? You know.
Are you finding directly Wirral? I was just talking about Wirral here. Are you finding that the likes of the government or the corporate or someone like that, they are helping or actively helping, or are the if it can be as so bold as just giving you lip service or just saying yeah, okay, we'll help, or are they actively
Mhm.
giving you the signs that things might happen or they might be able to they're buying into it?
Yeah, so Wirral Council have met with us. That the housing, couple of their housing managers have met with us a couple of times to talk about this campaign, and they are actively doing some work on empty buildings. They've had that
Yeah,
ongoing. I think they had some grant funding to do some more work a few years ago, and that came to an end.
right.
But yeah, they have the fact that they've been willing to meet with us has been really great. And they've sort of suggested we can kind of work together going forwards, which is really great
Well,
to
it's a
have that.
positive that they're talking
Yeah,
to you
it's a real
and they're actively,
positive
yeah.
because that's half the battle sometimes with campaigns is just getting a meeting with the right person. Obviously, in terms of the MPs, the national government, they are doing a lot now about bringing out funding for the social and affordable housing programme. However, we think a lot of that is for building new houses as well.
Right, yeah,
But the thing is, it's not as simple with the housing crisis. It's not as simple as just building new houses because people have to be able to afford to live in them.
yeah,
That's the issue. Kind of the same with the food bank. People have to have enough money to be able to afford food. That's the biggest issue. It's just people don't have the right enough money to afford food, and that's why they come into the food bank. And it's the same with housing as well. So our campaign, the biggest part of it really is to have more social rent housing.
Right, yeah.
Mm,
When you said before, people coming to the food bank, and you have your campaigns, and
yeah.
they don't. The clients probably don't get involved in the campaigns as such directly.
Mm,
Uh, how do you find that the clients deal with going into the food bank and interacting? Is there a social side to it? Is it
mhm,
because it in me mind? I think I know what a food bank, but no, like
mm.
in my mind, you think, oh, it's a depressing place,
Yeah, I
or
think unfortunately a lot of people do find it quite a nerve-wracking place to go into, and it's very anxiety inducing, and people don't really want to have to be there. And it doesn't help as well that there's a big stigma around it as well, which is a shame, but
yeah,
that is a big part of it for a lot
yeah,
of people. We do have obviously all of our food bank sessions are run by volunteers
yeah,
from the Wirral, so Wirral people supporting Wirral people, and there's always someone to sort of welcome you in, can make a cup of tea, have a bit of a chat with you, and then we'll give you the food as well. And it's always done quite, fairly discreetly. And if you need to have a conversation with someone, there's always someone around, sometimes we have a Feedback Plus person there. Um, Most of the sessions are run out of local churches,
yeah,
but there are some places, like for example St Vincent's de Paul and Birkenhead, which is connected with the SVP charity, and they do have like a community cafe attached
yeah,
with it as well. So there is that option too. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a bit like here
Hmm.
at Spider, coming through the door. It can be daunting, and you
Yeah.
could go, "Oh, what's in
Yeah.
store for me?" But once you get through the door,
Yeah.
you realise that it is a welcoming place. So I'd
Yeah.
imagine it's the same at a food
Yeah.
bank, and there shouldn't be any stigma to it. But unfortunately,
Mm.
there is. But half the battle is to get out there, isn't it, and talk to
Yeah.
people and let people
Yeah.
know that you were there to help them,
Yeah.
and
And
also to get people to pass on to say,
yeah.
go to the Wirral Food Bank, they will help
Yeah,
you.
and that's why that's a good thing about having something in person as well, because a lot of people these days are so isolated as well. I mean, over 50% of our clients are single person households. And you can imagine it is hard work on doing everything on your own, paying
Yeah,
for all those bills on your own. So I think it's nice to see people in person, and we've got a great partnership with a local taxi firm. So if people need a lift back home, they can get a lift back home. But we always encourage people to try and come in first.
yeah.
We don't really do deliveries, and that's mainly for that reason of how important it is to see someone face to face, because it also opens up doors to other support and advice as well.
Yeah, and
Mm.
also with like any good campaign,
Mm-hmm.
it's the successes, the stakeholders. It's
Mm.
if you got good stakeholders and people who know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, that is half the battle.
Mm.
And I would imagine major part of your stakeholders are the people who use your services. They've got the lived experience to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So therefore, for going there, and when people do go there,
Hmm.
it's good to encourage them to talk about their lived experiences. Uh,
Yeah,
do
totally.
sorry, do you get people talking about your lived experience? Have you got any stories or uh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I normally go into sessions regularly to sort of speak to people, and I do this activity where I lay out a tablecloth and
right?
people can write down sort of what's brought them into the food bank today, but also what they want to see changing. Um, Yeah, we get lots of such a wide variety of stories. Sometimes people just put the cost of living, universal credit isn't enough, need more housing. But yeah, I might have to come. Can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. I'll
No,
come
but
back to you.
yeah, but
Yeah,
if you obviously there are people
yeah,
who come up and they'll come up with their story of what how
mm-hmm.
they got to where they are, how they got
Yeah,
to a food bank, and
yeah,
normally it isn't a major story. It's just this is how I'm here. I can't
yeah,
afford to feed my children. I can't afford to
yeah,
feed myself.
yeah,
So I've had to go and reach out, and we all need help sometimes, like we're in our
yeah,
lives. So therefore,
yeah,
when they're talking about how they got there,
mm-hmm.
if you've got a campaign going, certainly it's a
Mm-hmm.
case of, well,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones who know. You all know, and not like, and you live and breathe your
Mm-hmm.
jobs. But I would imagine that they're the ones who will tell you or give you the indications of
Yeah,
what is really needed for the person on the street.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
doesn't have to be the individual stuff. I'm not asking if you
yeah.
did have it, obviously,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
an example or whatever.
yeah,
But
no, I've just one's just come to me actually. I mean, so a lot of the time, health is wrapped up in this. I think about 70% of our clients at the feedback come in with physical, mental health conditions. There's a client I spoke to recently whose um, wife got diagnosed with the condition, and he became her carer.
Yeah.
So immediately their income dropped a lot because, the carer's allowance is limited. The health benefits that you get, it's just, you can't go out and earn more money whilst you're doing that. So that's quite limited, and it can often take a long time to get onto those benefits in the first place. Especially when you've got a lot going on,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you're, physically or mentally struggling. And then their son um, was also had a disability, and when he became 18, his disability payments changed from I've forgotten the name. I think it's Disability Living Allowance (DLA) to PIP,
Right.
and that sort of change as well took a long time too. So then they also received a drop of income as well.
Yeah.
Um, and they just weren't really getting out that much, and it was just really hard work for them.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, the income was just quite limited, and it can be quite hard for people when they go from, say, having like a full-time job, and you've got a rent, you've got all of these things in your house, you've got bills that you set up because you've got that level of income, and then if your health changes, then your income suddenly drops rapidly, and it's really hard to manage
It's
that
hard to get.
when you've got a lot going on as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to deal with emotions
Yeah.
and other issues that are going around.
Yeah.
It's a bit like with the universal credit, or when if you get sanctioned or whatever, or we'll withdraw money, we withdraw, or we'll cut your benefits, or we'll give you a
Mm,
sanction. That then could put someone into spiral out of control, where it's a case of
yeah.
just about living, and now I've got nothing, and then an
Yeah.
illness comes on top of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's where it's hopefully it's temporary, isn't it? It should all be temporary.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the best way to do it is to signpost people to other organisations. It's
Yeah.
like us, we have low level mental health, or we have crisis cafe, we have
Mm,
companeros and that.
mhm.
So that's where it's good for us to
Yeah.
work together and to know each other and what we do. So you
Yeah.
can send people to us, we can send people to you and other organisations with
Yeah.
like with a network, aren't we? The
Mhm.
WCVS, Wirral Council
Yeah.
Voluntary Services
Yeah.
Network.
And
And I think that works good,
yeah.
certainly in our roles, and like
Yeah.
because you're directly speaking to the person who you need to speak to,
Yeah.
who hasn't got all the other peripherals of the roles of the organisations. They're there
Mm,
for the people, or certainly in our case, of the volunteers.
mm,
Um, and how
yeah.
many volunteers have you got? Or would that be?
Oh,
You
I
don't
mean,
really. Yeah,
with the sort of general food bank operations, we've probably got over 200
yeah,
volunteers, because they run all sort of 10, 11 of our sessions. Some of those places are open 5 or 3 days a week as well. We've got volunteers in our warehouse, in our office, and volunteers who do donations, help with collections, food collections in supermarkets for our trustees.
yeah.
In our campaigning group, which is called Rural Community Advocates, we've got about sort of 10 people involved in that, and most of those people have got lived or learned experience of using the food bank.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
You mentioned trustees.
Hmm.
I believe the chair of the trustees is it called Paul Franklin?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Right. Um, we've got our engineer, producer, volunteer. His name's Paul Franklin. It's certainly not you, or is it?
No,
That's
well,
a,
our chair of trustees, Paul, he's got a background in campaigning with Christians on the left down in Westminster. So unless you've got that
oh, could be
experience,
you.
it might be a different person.
And it's spelt the same as well. I've seen the spelt the same as you.
We'll have to
Yeah,
get him down on the
yeah. Get
show.
him down and meet Paul. Meet
Like
Paul.
matter and antimatter meeting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But
Disasters.
yeah, yeah. But yeah. So going forward,
mm.
what's the next campaign, or what's the big deal at the moment for you? Or
Yeah. So, with the Universal Credit campaign, our next ask and for the MPs and the government is to conduct an independent review of how they measure universal credit. So, if you did want to get involved in that or wanted to learn more about it, you can go on our website. And there's some information there about how you can contact your MP, because I think if lots of different people are contacting them about this issue, then it's going to have more of a reach, more of a projection. And then also with our Empty Buildings campaign, we're currently going to be focusing on those buildings in Oxton. So planning to do some community engagement with more people who live there. I've got some people in our campaign group who are already there, want to connect more with their community and put on an event to talk about this issue.
Yeah. So
and try and
education for the people, so they don't think the NIMBYs or whatever. Not in my backyard. So it's to dispel any myths as well. I would imagine.
Yeah, a bit. And there's constant things that we're doing with campaigning, like collecting people's stories that we can share about the housing crisis, connecting with stakeholders like councillors, the owners of the building, and creating some sort of materials that we can share as well.
Yeah.
And then we're also doing a bit of campaign at the moment with Citizens Advice Wirral about council tax as well, the recent changes to council tax reduction. So we're going to doing a big comms campaign about that, because there's changes to council tax reduction, and that relates to people who are on low incomes can apply for a discount on your council tax. However, that discount has been reduced. So think of it as a double negative. That means people are going to have to be paying more council tax. We found that a lot of some people don't realise that they have to pay any, which has led to sort of court fines and debt issues, having to come to the Foodbank. So we want to make sure that people are aware of this change, but also know where to get support as well.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that this change has happened and we campaigned against it happening in the first place, but it is going to change, and we want to make sure that people know different places where they can get support, know that the council do have a hardship scheme that you can apply for council tax as well, if you're struggling with that. So there'll be some materials released online soon back with Citizens Advice Wirral and ourselves about that.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Yeah.
And obviously you're the campaign coordinator, and I believe you're direct descendants from William Wallace. So I think you've
I'm
got
not sure about that.
you've got the fighting spirit in you.
No, I'm not sure about that, but I'm not from the Wirral myself,
No.
but my family, who were here for many generations, their surname is Wallace, and they do come from Scotland.
Right,
so
yeah,
maybe there's a connection, but I don't actually know
that.
that. Yeah, my degree's in history, but I've not studied that bit so far.
But well,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure to see you today, and thank you very much for coming in. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hope we haven't grilled you too much or whatever. Is there anything else that you want to speak about? Anything on?
No, I mean, I could talk all day about Foodbank issues, so
well,
yeah, I'll leave it there, but thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. I'm still Gary Owen. This episode was produced and engineered by Paul Franklin. This podcast was lovingly brought to you by Spider Project, a creative recovery organisation that values community, trust, honesty and respect. If you'd like to learn more about Spider Project, why not get in touch? You can email us at enquiries@spiderproject.org.uk or through the usual social channels such as Insta, Facebook and X. Don't forget to like and share. Can you do that again? Blah.